Welcome to Eochora. Journey with the secret sword to this mystical land of danger and opportunity. 12 nations contest for survival and domination, from the rampant arcane experimentation of the Astarian sanctuary to the iron-fisted draconic tyrannies of Moonfall. Each of our heroes draw their origins from a unique civilization, but they are united through a desire to bring hope to this conflicted and varying continent. Their travels began in the jungle nation of Shariner, a people devoted to tradition, the natural elements, and wariness about science. Yet only time will tell what impact the secret swords will make on the history of Eochora as it unfolds before us.
Thank you for your continued patronage at our Ruthless Grasshopper. Did you enjoy the food? I'm glad to hear that. Is there anything else I can get you tonight? Huh? You want to know more about me? It's nothing really worth knowing. I'm just a chef here at the Grasshopper. Well, since you're insisting, and since you're a regular here, I guess it wouldn't hurt. My name is Lolavati. I was born and raised amongst the druidic circles of Shariner. Quite literally. I never knew either of my parents, and the closest thing to a parental figure I had was my circle's elder, Driti. He taught me, and many other orphaned younglings, the ways of the Circle of Wildfire, so that we may become future Eochora seed bearers. All was well and good, until it was my turn to become one of those seed bearers. A little while after the seed conferment ceremony and my departure to find a place for the seed to grow, an accident happened. All I can remember is that there was an explosion of some kind that almost immediately knocked me unconscious. The next thing I remember was the tribunal held by the GS Council. The presiding judge of the tribunal, Rallis, from the Circle of the Moon, announced that my sentence would be exile. Normally, being responsible for the death of a Eochora seed meant execution, but it looked like Driti was able to make some kind of deal, though I'm not sure why he would go out of his way for someone like me. My exile began immediately, before I had any time to recover from that accident, so I was still feeling kind of weak. I decided to try and see if I could find somewhere to stay in Nakota, since it was one of the closer cities outside the Shirin border. Unfortunately, I never even got anywhere close, since soon after I left I was attacked by a massive bear. In my weakened state, I could hardly defend myself, and the bear was able to tear my left arm clean off. I don't know how, but as it was distracted by that little appetizer, I was able to flee with a speed I never knew I had. I eventually collapsed against a tree and was nearly bleeding out before I heard the voice of an older man coming towards me as I passed out from the pain. Next thing I knew, I was in the bed here in the Grasshopper with this prosthetic wooden arm in place of my missing one. It seems like the owner here, Thorin, was the one who saved me and got me all patched up. Further still, he offered me a job as the chef here as well as a place to stay. After everything that happened, I couldn't really refuse, and I've been trying to pay him back ever since. It's been a few months since then, and Oh, it looks like it's closing time already. I better start cleaning up. I hope my store is good enough for now, Mr. Sorcovin. Well, I hope you enjoyed your dining experience tonight, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you for visiting the Ruthless Grasshopper.
Oh, my. I didn't see you there. Hello, my name is Castev. I'm a human male sorcerer, hailing from the treetop city of Utamanu, which is, of course, coincidentally, where our adventure begins. But I haven't always lived here. It wasn't always magical. Well, my eyes are, of course, magical, but, oh, that's not what I mean. No. When I was a boy, my mother, Yela Sirius Castev, died, which had a profound impact on me. One of my only friends and comforters as a child was a purple-skinned tiefling named Sorcovin. But then, my father made us leave Utamanu. I was left feeling alone, and my father, Castev, a coin lord who favored my brother Castor Castev and my sister Andromeda Castev over me for their arcane prowess, sent me away to live and study at Asten's University in Astaria, our new home. I came to find comfort in my studies, scrolls, and fellow aspirant wizards, and even though I could not perform the spells myself, I developed a deep love of magic there. My father, on the other hand, grew frustrated in my ever-growing apparent lack of arcane ability, and by extension, worth. He pulled me from class one day and brought me to an ancient and hidden underground room within Asten's, where I met Mihi Majid, a silver-scaled dragonborn, who is, apparently, my father's personal spy master and scrollsmith, and my teacher and torturer. Professor Majid shackled me to a wall and began to perform a ritual, carving blue runes with his wand into my flesh, all over my body. Beyond the physical pain, I felt my very soul being stretched and remade with an ancient arcane power. I became rune-scribed. To this day, I do not fully know the extent of my power, or what it truly means. Many years later, after studying and practicing spycraft, scribing spell scrolls, and honing in my sorcerer's abilities, all under the tutelage of Professor Majid, I finally left Ostens and began fieldwork for my father and his business. My duties include diplomacy, espionage, and seeing that my father's monopoly of a spell scroll business remains business as usual. And that's why I have returned here, to Utamanu. Partially because my father wants me to lay low. You see, my powers may have been discovered back in Astaria, and he'd like me to keep a low profile. And partially to oversee my father's business here in Utamanu. And partially because he just hates me. Well, I can't please everyone.
You wish to know of my story? Well, it goes something like this. My name is Sorcovintinais, a male tiefling bard of the College of Lore. I too was born in the verdant Utamanu, a child of Helvantin and Galena Tinais. My first memories are not of my parents, however, but of my grandfather, Saraisin Tinais. In my earliest of years, he captured my imagination with grand stories of the past, present, and future. For the longest time, I dreaded my path, for I was to follow in my parents' footsteps and become a hunter for our village, a fate that did not interest me in the slightest. It was my dear friend Castev that always kept me company through these troubling times, but our friendship was not meant to last. His father sent him far away to another land. Many more years passed and my despair only grew. Much to my surprise, when I finally revealed the truth to my father about my fears of the future, he did not turn his back to me. Instead, he told me that it was his great love for my mother that gave his life true meaning. Until I found something that called to me in such a way, it would matter not what I did. I would still be missing a part of me. One fateful day I saw her for the first time. She was looking for flowers for her mother. Inspired, I took her to the ruins not far from Utamanu. Once there, I ventured deep to find where I knew the most beautiful flowers bloomed. When I returned, I saw Raquel Dianas, my love, waiting for me there with impossible beauty. It was not long before we were planned to wed one another. But tragedy soon fell upon Raquel. Her mother Miriam unexpectedly passed away in her sleep, and her father Randall became ill. Raquel needed coin to care for herself and her father. That is when she discovered an attractive business offer located in Dakota. I reassured her that wherever she would go, I would follow. But it was her father who demanded that Raquel not travel to Dakota out of fear for her safety. Of course, Raquel did not wish to disobey her father, but she felt she had no choice. She traveled to Dakota to seal the deal, and she was scheduled to return within but a few days. But the time came and passed without her. Randall accused me of being the reason for her disappearance, Determined to clear my name and to find my heart, I immediately made plans to travel to Nakoda. The truth was far harsher than I could have even imagined. Raquel had perished in an accident involving mere workhorses. My heart shattered to think that she was gone, and from something so meaningless. The guilt of Raquel's untimely demise weighed on my mind. I told tales in the taverns of Nakota to help me forget. My life as I knew it ended with Raquel's. Yet crowds would gather around me in those clandestine bars, listening to every word I spoke with great interest. That is when I met Vanduin Loreshny. He told me of the fallen phoenix, how there may yet still be hope for Raquel and I to live together once more. Vanduin believed that a man such as myself could win powerful allies for the fallen phoenix. He gave me my first quest. I was to travel back to Udamanyu and to confront my past. Only then could I ever hope to begin my new future. When I finally made my way to Udamanyu, I was shocked to learn that Randall had miraculously recovered from his illness, and that he had inherited a large sum of coin from a deceased family member. In his older age, all he wanted was his family, but both his wife and his only daughter were dead. He cursed me with all of his might. My time here in Eochora is coming to a climax. I can feel it. Something here will soon happen, and my tale's intrigue will continue to unfold.
The storm-ridden mountains of Gurun Hijar do not lend themselves to a comfortable life, and Turkara's upbringing was no exception. Before she had earned her full name, Turkara was known only as Tyr, a young Vargath of silver fur and dark brown horns. The Vargath are a proud but straightforward people, always under the threat of dragon attacks. They valued strength and devotion above all. At birth, the Vargath are given only a single syllable as a name. It is not until adulthood, their late 20s, when they receive the second, and a third, or very rarely a fourth, only given if they have done their people a great service. Thus, Tyr's early life was hard, but her family made the best of it as simple farmers and hunters. That is until a stormy night when Tyr was but 16. She awoke to the sudden sound of screams, only to find her parents viciously murdering a village prayer leader. In absolute horror, Tyr watched as this man prayed Puhavik, the Vargath god of leadership, while her parents stole the last of his life from him. When their evil deed was done, Tyr's mother, Atta, bestowed her with a new name, Turkar, the Taker, and explained that they had been plotting the downfall of the village for many years. The man they murdered that night was to be the first of many. And they slated Turkar as the one who will take the Vargath's freedom for them. In shock, Turkar knew what she must do. Bright flashes of lightning matched Turkar's emotions as she grabbed the knife from the victim's neck and charged toward her parents. In an instant, her world became dark. Turkar woke to find herself in the prayer hall to Havik, found and cared for by Elindis, one of the village leaders. In the days that followed, Elindis told Turkar that a man named Aspar Mirsa was seen fleeing the village the day after the incident with her parents. It was the village's suspicion that this man was somehow connected to the plot that Turkar's parents had harbored. In that moment, Turkar knew the purpose of her quest. She would find this Aspar Emilsen, learn the truth of her parents' plot, and bring all involved to justice. For the next 12 years, Turkar dedicated herself to training and to following the teachings of Havik. It will be in his name that Turkar will bestow judgment. Finally, as the time came to begin her quest, Many from the village came to see her off. Elendis, other village leaders, and even some simple townsfolk. She had earned quite the reputation among the Vargath. It was then that she was finally given her full name by village leaders. Turkara the Taker now finds herself traversing across Eochora, justice in tow.
For the longest time, war, conflict, and battle were all that I knew. I was born in a group of enslaved black dragonborn inside a decrepit citadel, and given the simple name, Kor. We were taught of the majesty of Aranara, Bloodstar Queen of Krulan, and the threat brought about by the Arising Alloys, a rogue terrorist group bent on ending Aranara's glorious conquest. The odds of combat was all that mattered. In this world, it was either kill or be killed. While I was always skeptical of what I was being taught, I kept this side of me hidden, out of fear of retaliation. I was one of many recruited by Crew Strickdot, a ruthless black and red dragonborn serving as a lead commander in Aranar's army. He put us through grueling exercises, designed to bring us to the brink of physical and mental exhaustion. This culminated in the yearly culling, a series of one-on-one combat scenarios wherein recruits fought against each other until one killed the other. This was framed as a way of showing one's worth and to weed out the weaker half of the army. And though I was reluctant to fight, I knew that if I refused, I would ultimately be killed outright. I used my heightened endurance to tank most of my opponent's attacks, waiting to tire them out, and then going for the kill when the time was right. This cycle of events continued on for the next 20 years, and despite my growing recognition, I grew bitter towards the horrible system, treating me as nothing more than another weapon to be wielded. Shortly after my 20th culling, news came of a female brass dragonborn that was spotted and captured in the outskirts of Krulan. While she refused to reveal anything about why she was there, they did discover that she was a member of the Arising Allies. Interested in speaking to another dragonborn, this one outside of Krulan, I volunteered to probe her for more information. Crew acknowledged my survivability and determined that I was the most clever and capable for the job. He ordered me to go in alone, trick her into gaining her trust, and then from there, any information that was revealed was to be reported immediately back to him. While agreeing to this plan as a front, my true goal was to discover the reality behind everything I had been taught. While at first unresponsive to my questions, it was only after I explained my real reasons that she slowly began to open up to me. Her name was Auroras, a novice to the Arising Alloys under the tutelage of Rio Viodia, the champion of the weak. She foolishly believed that she was ready to join the fight, and thus sailed across the Bay of Serpents to investigate Aranar's forces, where she was eventually caught. She told me of a life outside in the world of Nedranel, and how the Arising Alloys were not terrorists, but seekers of peace, and how they were being brainwashed to fight as expendable warriors. With my suspicions of how I was raised now confirmed, I made a deal with her. If I could break her out, she would take me away from the barren wasteland of Krulan and back to the Arising Alloys. In between giving updates to Crew, I learned of the best route of escape and planned to leave before dawn the next day. The night before the jailbreak, however, Crew decided that Auroras was no longer useful, and she was on her way, sent to him for immediate execution. Realizing that it was now or never, I intercepted the escort, knocked out the guards, handed her a spare sword, and told her to follow me. On our way out, we came across several more guards responding to the sounds of conflict. Despite my reluctance to attack my brainwashed brethren, we combined our forces to strike down each and every guard as we made our way towards the exit. As we reached the end, I heard a voice from behind. It was Crew. He called me traitorous scum and stared at me with seething anger. After a brief moment of reflection, I left through the burning compound, never looking back at my old home. From there, we traveled back to Nedranel, where we were brought before Rio Viodia, asking for my intention in coming. I replied that it was my wish to join the Arising Alloys and to join the mission in ending the Dragon Wars. That I was not only a capable fighter, but I could provide plenty of intel for the inner workings of Crew's sect, and by extension, a part of Aranar's army. Seeing that my intentions were genuine, she agreed to induct me into the Arising Alloys and placed me under her tutelage alongside Aurora's, my black skin being transformed into an iridescent brass. During the next 3 years, I spent my time assisting the Arising Alloys. They in turn provided me knowledge of the world and taught me of the values of teamwork, camaraderie, and putting others before oneself. All the while I trained alongside Aurora's, who I began to see as a younger sister that I would not hesitate to protect with my life. As our contributions grew more and more, we were promoted to the ranks of copper and later bronze, after which we were both assigned different missions. Aurora's was to finally join the front lines, while I was to make my way to the forest city of Eudaimonium in search of supplies and supporters. Grabbing a blade and a shield, as well as a few other supplies, Aurora's and I parted ways with a final farewell. As I made my way to Eudaimonium, I reflected on how different things were now than they were 3 years ago. I thought back to my old comrades, brainwashed against their will. I thought back to Commander Crow and realized his continued practices would only bring more harm and pain to many other Dragonborn. This only strengthened my resolve to continue assisting the Arising Alloys in any way, for I believe we will be the ones to bring an end to this ceaseless fighting.